Welcome back to shitty webcam videos. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna be doing a movie review on one of my all-time favorite horror films. Probably my second favorite horror film next to The Exorcist, and that is the one and only classic, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Made in the year 1980, starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Trotters, and whoever the fuck plays Danny Lloyd. So, basically, the plot of The Shining, it's also based on the novel by Stephen King. So, the plot of The Shining is you got this guy, played by Jack Nicholson, who is kind of like a caretaker ex-teacher that taught in school, obviously. And essentially, he has been asked to look after this hotel during the winter called the Overlook Hotel because it's going to close up. So he goes to a meeting at the start of the movie where we get the iconic driving and long shots to basically talk to the owners and about the hotel and about, taking care of it and saying that when they close up, you'll be able to will you be able to look after it? And he's like, oh yeah, of course I will, and all that. So they're on about that and talking about it. But he does say that the one thing that turns people off the job is that there was a guy that previously took care of the hotel. Fuck off, tractor. There's a guy that previously took care of the hotel that butchered his whole family with an axe. He killed his wife and his two kids. Which are these two little bitches. Goblins will get you. Sorry. So anyway, that's what happens with that. And essentially, he's asked to look after this hotel. And when he does, like he says it to his wife, Linda, who is just a regular woman living at home with raising their son Danny, watching TV, watching Bugs Bunny, and Danny has this imaginary friend called Tony who talks and stuff like that through his finger, but it's a friend that lives in his mouth. But because he's acting weird, there's a psychologist looking pretty much at Danny to see if he's okay, and Shelley Duvall is very nervous and anxious about Danny and hoping that he's okay. So essentially, Jack Nicholson's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go take care of the hotel," and Danny has a bad problem about he's not looking forward to going to the hotel because Tony's trying to warn him not to go because he thinks it's going to be bad. Although Shelley Duvall, who plays Wendy, says, "Oh, it's going to be fun." Yeah, it's going to be fucking fun. Trust me, love. It's going to be fun. Here, it's going to get your old husband fucked up and stuff like that. So, yeah. So essentially, a doctor looks at him and says to stay inside for Danny because they're worried about him because of this thing, and it's normal for to have these kind of delusions. She tells him there's nothing wrong with Danny, but she also does tell a story about how when Jack was drunk one night, he did actually accidentally hurt Danny by dislocating his arm because he spilled the papers everywhere and all of that other stuff. So, yeah. So essentially, they go to this Overlook Hotel, and for a good chunk, it is busy at the beginning. There's people there, people packing up, and they're basically given the whole tour. The wife is introduced, so they're all walking around the lobby, the bar, they're showing the entrance, the underneath of it, they're showing the maze outside, they're showing the little snow thing that they can use in the winter. They basically just go around showing everything, the kitchen. Jack goes and talks to these other guys, and Scatman Trotters meets Wendy, and him and Wendy go around and talk to Danny. But while Danny's there, him and Scatman Trotters end up talking to each other in each other's minds, calling each other Doc. He knows his name is Doc, and all this other shit. So they start having conversations and stuff out loud, and they say, that we can have conversations in our mind and all that. He's like, yeah. And essentially, we learn that he has this thing called the Shannon, because that's what his grandmother used to call it. So essentially, he's like, "Does Tony tell you to do things?" And he's like, I'm not supposed to." So while Danny's walking around, he starts seeing weird visions of him going like that, and then blood coming out of an elevator, and all this other crazy shit. And he sees these. He's in a games room and sees these two little girls walk in and just walk out randomly. Um, and he has visions of them in the hallway and stuff. And essentially, they go off, look up for winter. And the thing is that Jack Torrance's profession now is he's a writer. So he says at the start, no, it's great. He's like, people tend to be driven mad by the isolation, but he's like, well, I think it's a good time to start writing and all that. So the isolation actually doesn't really drive Jack mad at all. So that's, well, no, it does drive him mad, but he doesn't think it will. So he's like, don't worry, I'm not gonna do that to my family. So essentially, Shelley Duvall is looking after Danny, and Scatman Trotters goes off or whatever. So then they basically start staying at the Overlook Hotel. Um, they get the tour of all the rooms, and we also find out that Scatman says to Danny that um to not go into room 237, and Danny says that like when it, with his finger. So as the movie's going on, you know, they're doing different things. Like she's working in the kitchen making lunch, and Danny is basically on his tricycle going around the hallways, going around everywhere, and even goes past room 237 at one point and tries to open it. It does, but nothing happens because he sees the door open. Um, but Jack spends most of his time typewriting and doing all this other crazy shit, and essentially, motherfucker, um, essentially is just doing that. And then when Wendy walks in, say, "What are you reading? What are you writing, hon?" He starts getting really, really angry at her. At her. He stays up late. She watches TV while Danny's downstairs. He goes up and grabs his truck, and there's a really long scene where he's just sitting on his lap and talking to him. Um, and he's like, "You wouldn't hurt us, would you?" Dad's like, "Why would you say that?" and all that. And essentially, the isolation in the hotel starts driving Jack mad. He starts to go crazy. Essentially, he starts having nightmares when he's typewriting, saying that he had a nightmare about that he killed Danny and he killed Wendy, chopped them up into pieces, and then Wendy freaks out because then we see that Danny's acting all weird and has a bruise, and eventually she comes down and says that a woman attacked him, and then more and more weird shit happens when he goes up to the room 237, goes into the bathtub, and the woman comes out naked. They start making out, and then her body starts fucking getting all fucked up, and he tries to run after him. And we keep getting throughout the film the visions of the bloody doorway, the visions of the girls, and essentially Danny keeps cycling and cycling and cycling until he sees the two girls in the hallway, and we get the infamous "come play with us" scene, and then they're there dead, covered in blood, and all of that bullshit. And essentially, bad things are happening. Jack starts to go, continue to go crazy. Um, you know, uh, he starts freaking out. There's times where he breaks his vow of not drinking and starts drinking again. He starts seeing ghosts in the bar and other people and all that kind of shit, and he's kind of like just losing it, just fucking losing it. And it's at that moment where you're kind of like, holy fucking shit, what's up with this guy? Um, So essentially, when he's drinking, he's talking about how he accidentally hurt someone, and he's calling his wife a bitch and Danny a bitch behind her back, and Danny's making Linda's getting all upset and looking at looking at like in the kitchen, and Danny's acting weird, and she's worried about Danny, and Danny's running around like his fingers going like that. Um, and eventually more and more weird shit keeps happening. So, uh, Jack, um, Danny starts acting weird. Shelly comes down, or not Shelly, fucking Wendy comes down, and Jack starts getting really threatening and threatens to bash his wife's head in, and then she hits him with a bat. We also see the typewriting thing that says all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. She even locks him in this like little thing, cellar for a while. He gets out. There's another night where he goes into the bar and everyone's there, and he meets the guy that killed his whole family. He talks to the barman. There's all of this crazy shit going on, and pretty much there's moments where like Wendy and Danny are playing outside in the snow, like way earlier on in the film, and then Jack is just looking out the window, and you know that the guy is losing his fucking mind. Um, and the movie just consistently gets weirder and weirder until eventually Jack does lose his mind, and there's many moments um where Danny starts to go red rum, and writes it down, and he says it, and then essentially, while Wendy's asleep, he ends up writing it on the door, and has a knife there, and she has to calm down, and says murder in the mirror, and essentially Jack Torrance ends up breaking the door down. Uh, Danny climbs out the window, runs away. Wendy ends up in the fucking um the bathroom. Then, of course, Jack knocks the door down and says, "Here's Johnny!" and ends up getting caught. And then Shelly tries to run away, and um, essentially, she hears that Scatman has gotten to the Mr. Harlan. That's who Harlan. That's what the guy's name is. Has gotten to the Overlook Hotel because he has visions. Danny has visions when he's in bed, and he has visions when he's watching TV, and he's trying to get down to the Overlook Hotel. He even goes and goes through on a plane, an airport, and even rings up this guy saying, "Could you get a snowmobile thing so I can get down there?" So he gets down there. It's a 5 hour drive, and he goes to the hotel, and then Jack ends up killing him. And Jack, pretty much the whole finale is him running after Danny, and then Shelley starts seeing some of these visions beforehand of like the baldy guy, and this guy in a mask, like weird mask, having sex. She sees the bloody elevator, the ghost, the guy that killed his family, and just all this other crazy shit. Um, and essentially, um, Danny ends up in the maze. Jack ends up running after him, and eventually Danny escapes with his mother, and Jack ends up freezing to death, and then we get the shot of the picture at the end. So that's overall what the plot, and that's the movie in a nutshell. So what do I think of it? This movie's a fucking masterpiece. This movie is a fucking horror masterpiece. This movie is unbelievable. This is like, it's another level of fucking amazing. Um, it's fucking like fantastic. Um, from the fucking acting to the cinematography to the dialogue, it's memorable. The suspense is there. So let's talk about this. So I will do all that, but I'm gonna take a break. Imagine the fucking magic video editing. All right, hold on. So It's not that bright. Oh, there's my beautiful, sexy face. So, back to the movie review of The Shining. Where do we even begin with this fucking film? I'm going to start off with the cinematography. It's unbelievable. All of the shots where you see, like, the characters walking through the hallways, like, there's loads of shots like that in the movie. Um, and the way Kubrick uses the camera and the way it moves. And hold on, I have to turn this fucking light on because, yeah, if my phone wasn't being fucking stupid, I wouldn't have this problem. Goddamn tractors, I tell you. Um, they be the death of me. Anyway, so I love like when they get to the hotel, you know, they're there like, oh come on in, look at this. It's like, oh hi. It's like, yeah, let's go. And then they're in the lobby and it's like, oh we're just clearing out. It's like, oh that's great. It's great that you're doing that and all that. And it's like, yeah. It's like, where's your son? It's like, oh he seems to have discovered the games room. Yeah, it's like, oh that's great, you know. And they're walking around like, well, we have all of these rooms here and this, that, and the other, and the wife's like, "Oh yeah, this is really nice," and all that. So he plays it really well, and just love like the real human side of it, like the realistic side of the start of it. Like, come on, here's the lobby. It's like, oh, here it is, and then here's the big ass room. It's like, oh, it's great, isn't it? And it's like, it sure is. Yeah, I think I'll do a lot of my writing in here. It's like, yeah, so we have all of this stuff down here and this down here and all that, and I enjoyed like those kind of scenes, like, oh yeah, here's the thing, here's the bar, but there's no booze there. It's like, oh, don't worry, I haven't drank in months and all that. And it's like, oh, it's great. It's like we can certainly do a lot of dancing in here, huh? It's like, yeah, well, it's not. Well, no, that's a great idea. It's like not much activity, and then they're walking down the hallway and like just showing him around and goes, well, here, this part of the hotel is new and refurbished. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's like, it certainly is nice and all that. And I just love the whole showing him around. It's like, okay, here's the upstairs. Like, oh, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful. And just the whole looking around, showing them around the hotel, just all of that was great. And then talking and all that, and then they go into the boilers like, oh, here it is, you got this, that, and this. It's like, oh, that's awesome, that's great, yeah. So out here you have this. Here's the thing you have in winter that you can have in winter, and then here's the big maze. It's a great attraction. Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, you'll have a great time here. So they're walking around, and I love that slow build up of just showing everything. And the hotel's busy, and everyone in the hotel, and everyone's sitting down. They're in the lobby. You know, I like when he's in the lobby with Danny and uh, Wendy, and he's like, "Oh, we're just waiting here." It's like, they gotta be here. It's like, "Oh, Mr. Torrance, hi, nice to meet you. This is my wife, Wendy." It's like, "Oh yeah, where's your son?" He's like, "Oh, he seems to have discovered the games room and all that." And I like the kind of normalness that he has at the start. And just them walking around. It's like, this is the hotel groundskeeper. Is man, Mr. Halloran's like, hello, hi folks. It's like, yeah. He's like, hey, nice to meet you and all that. And he's like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, Dad, this is a nice hotel. I like when Danny's like, Dad, this is a nice hotel and all that. He's like, it sure is, kid, and all that. And it's like, we're gonna like this, Danny. And when they're running around the maze, and just the way the camera moves through all the rooms and the hallways and just all the different locations, it's just beautiful. It's Stanley Kubrick beautiful. And similar to A Clockwork Orange, the movie looks like a painting. It's just really beautiful looking, and I like the way the camera moves as they're walking in the side into the room and the way it moves down the hallways. It's just beautifully done. Brilliant look to the film as well. It's like, out here we have this. It's like, yeah, and here's the radio room. You can use this whenever you want. It's like, oh, great. I love when they go up to the bedrooms. Like, this is the bedrooms here. You can use that here. You can go between each whichever bedroom you want. It's like, oh, that's great. Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? I might stay in this one, and all that. And they walk through, and you have the nice carpet and just all of that kind of shit. It's beautiful, beautiful. Um, but I love the bit where Danny's just there, just in the games room. He's just playing this game or whatever, and he kind of stops and then looks and just sees the two little girls there, and they just walk out holding hands. He's kind of like that, and the music is building up, and it's fucking creepy. Like it is terrifying. Um, you know, so fucking creepy. Um, but it's brilliantly done. And then you know, I love the part where um he's like, "Do you mind if I talk to you alone, Jack, and leave your wife be?" It's like, "Oh yeah," and it's like, "Okay, come on, Mrs. Torrance." And then I like the scene in the freezer, like, "This is beautiful, it's great. You like ice cream, don't you, Doc?" And he's like, "You like ice cream?" He's like, "Oh, I do, yeah. Do you like this big kitchen? You like that? Yeah." It's like, "Hi, Danny, nice to meet you." He's like, "Nice to meet you," whatever. So then they're walking in the kitchen and all, and just the brilliant shots of the kitchen, big wide angles of full screens. Like, "Yeah, so this is where we go in here, Mrs. Torrance, and we do this." It's like, "Oh, it's beautiful. We cook the food here, and it's nice. Oh, it's great." And we can get a lot of things like ice cream here. And it's like, "Do you like ice cream, Doc?" And he's like, "Yes, I do like ice cream. That's so great," and all that. And then I love the different moments. Like, she's like, "How'd you know his name was Doc? We call him Doc." He's like, "What?" He's like, "That's what me and my husband usually call him, Doc, after the Bugs Bunny cartoons." It's like, I don't know. You know, I think I must have heard you say it. It's like, "Oh, I don't seem to recall." Oh, well. And then they're coming in open. It was like, "Here you are, here's the freezer." And then there's a great moment where Mr. Harlan's just looking at Danny, and Danny's looking at him, and like they hear each other's voices in each other's heads. Like, "Do you know what it is you're doing here? You like ice cream, Doc?" It's like, "Yes," and all that. And it's just that kind of, what we're doing. It's like, "Yeah, hey, can I? You can go around up there, your mother. I can have a little word with your son if that's okay. I can go get some ice cream." It's like, "Yeah, sure, come on, Danny," and all that. And meanwhile, the guy is showing Jock around. It's like, "Here you go, Mr. Torrance." Like, "Oh, that's great. That's unique and all that." And I love that little aspect and the realism. It's like, "Okay, that's grand." And then I love how they do it. It's like, oh, the day they move and just all that, and the beautiful looks of shots of the Overlook Hotel, and just how nice it looks overall. I just thought was brilliant and beautifully done. Um, so yeah, I love that. That was great. Um, but there's many occasions in the film where Danny has visions of, and the blood going down the elevator, which, and like, just brilliantly done with the practical effects coming out of the elevator and pushing all the chairs and furniture away. And then there's moments of him like that. They do that a couple of times throughout the film, and with the flashes of like him going, and sometimes with noise, and the fact that there's no noise and it's just music is really effective. And it has the kids there, and it's just creepy ass shit. It really is. So then, um, Wendy's there doing her own thing. You know, so they're all like, there's that great scene where that brilliant scene where because they cut on into Danny a lot. There's a lot of shots of Danny looking up, like when he's on in the sitting down or whatever, or when he's like just kind of doing other things and all that, like like in the hotel, and just looking quiet and creepy and all that kind of shit. And then when he's in his sleep, he's like, red rum, and then there's shots of him when he's sleeping, he's like, red rum, and he starts writing and all this kind of shit. Way later on in the film though, but yeah, and I love all those scenes. They were great. But there's a brilliant moment. I also love the moment where um whatchamacallit, as I said, Mr. Harlan and Danny are talking. It's like, "So, Doc, do you like ice cream?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I am." It's like, "Do you know what I'm talking about? Read your mind and all that." It's like, "You heard what I said." He's like, "Mm-hmm," and all that. and he's like, you know the, you know what happened and all that. He's like, yeah. He's like, me and my grandmother used to have this gift. We could have whole conversations in our mind. She used to call it the shining. I think you got it, Doc. You got the shining. You know, it's like you got to shine to you. Do you want to talk about it? It's like, no. Why don't we want to talk about it? He's like, do you want to say something? He's like, why don't you want to talk about it? And he's like, I'm not supposed to. And I love the way he like mispronounces it. And he's like, who says you're not supposed to? And he's like, Tony. He's like, who's Tony? Tony's my little friend that lives in my mouth. It's like, Tony tells you to do things sometimes and all that. It's like, okay, so I love the dialogue between. It's like, you got a very special gift, and you got to use it. And it cuts back and forth between them, and like Shelley, they're all doing things, and Jack Torrance talking, and it's like, oh yeah, and then talking to hi hun and all that. It's like, yeah, it's great, and I love the part where he comes back and goes, hi babe. It's like, oh hi. It's like, I'm just gonna go over here and do this. It's just, he's like, oh that's okay, hun, and all that. Um, and I love like when she's talking to people. Oh yeah, it's great. I love it. And all, it's a really nice, exciting place. It's really nice, exciting, isn't it, hun? And all that stuff. So I like that, and it's creepy, and the music builds up. It's like, oh, go well, that's it, Mrs. Torrance. Here you go. I hope you were you good, Danny? He's like, mm-hmm. Oh, he was fine. I'll leave you to it. It's like, bye, Mr. Heron, and all that. And it's like, okay, well, I'll be out of your way. Then they leave, and then we start to get when they're at the hotel and like the what's going on and like the fucking it just starts up and you're kind of like, okay, so it's like Tuesday, and it just, you know, it just kind of gets more and more creepy. Like different things start to happen. Um, there is the moment, of course, I forgot to mention where when they're talking in he's like, "Can I say hi to Tony?" He's like, "Hello, Mister Halloran." He's like, "Hello, hi, Tony," and all that. But hi, nice to meet you, and all that. But I love the part where he's like, "What's in room 337?" It's like nothing's in room 237. Did someone say there is? Tony says there's something bad in there. It's like, yeah, well, just don't go in there. You have no one goes in there, and you have no business going in there either, and all that. So essentially, I like that. It's like the mystery and like just the creepiness of like, oh shit, don't go in that room. It just adds a lot to it. It's like, so I love that. But I love the little character moments where um Shelley Duvall goes into the like engine control room and goes, 1 2 1 2, this is this is Wendy at the Torrance at the Overlook Hotel. And she's like, oh, 1 2 1 2. How are you up there? Over. And it's like, oh, we're doing just fine. Over. But listen, there seems to be problems with the electricity. Over. It's like, yeah, the lines are going to be down for a while. Over. It's like, oh, how long is it going to be? Over. It's like, quite a while. Over. It's like, okay, anything else, ma'am? It's like, yeah, over and out. They are crazy, isn't it? Oh, yeah. And then they kind of do that a few times. Like, yeah, here it is. Over. It's like, yeah, this is where it is. Over. So I like the realism of the situation and like the way it's shot and just the kind of build up and the foreshadowing as to what's gonna come, what's gonna happen, all that other kind of shit. So they walk out and then I like when she's in the kitchen doing things like, oh yeah, here you go, Danny. It's like, oh yeah, let's go. It's like, there's your breakfast. Like, hey, Danny, could you get that and all that? And just Normal's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And she's doing things in the kitchen like, oh, listening to looking at the TV, small TV, and she's just like sharing things. And I just like that and how she seems normal at first making breakfast and it starts off kind of fine. Danny's just kind of going around the hotel playing and there's like he's just on his tricycle and he's just going around and it kind of cuts back to Shelley Duvall doing something. She's like walking up to see um Jack, because Jack is asleep and she's like, morning, hun, and all that, opens the door and the way that she walks in, goes up the stairs, see the kind of blue hallway and all that. Which I like that touch. It was very creepy, and I like just the big size of the hotel, and just the idea of them having an entire hotel to themselves. So many rooms that you could sleep in, so many like even when they walk in and they look at the bathrooms, like here's the bathroom. You can, you can stay in here whenever you want to and all that, and it's great. Um, and I like the stairs that they're on and the big room that Jack Torrance is in and stuff. But I love that, But like she goes in and the way the camera moves in, she's like, "Morning, hon," and it just the shot just focuses on Jack in the mirror. It's like, "Ah, morning. What time is it? 11:30. 11:30 already. How, how did you get anything written?" It's like, "Yeah, I got written down a couple of ideas. Like, well, maybe I'd like to hear them someday." It's like, "Yeah, I will. I'll read them out to you and all that." It's like, "Do you make eggs just the way you like them?" "Yeah, yeah, I did." It's like, "I think this place is great." "Yeah, it's terrific, isn't it?" "Yeah, it's good." It's like, "I absolutely love this place. It's brilliant and all that." And he's like, "Yeah." So he's just eating, like, yeah. He's like drinking. He's like, "Okay, I'll see you." Goes down and he's like, "Where's Danny?" "Oh, he's just down on his tricycle." So he's just downstairs, whatever. Doesn't set up. And then she's constantly in the kitchen, and it's consistently cutting back to Danny going on the tricycle, going past different rooms, going past the kitchen, going past different things, and that goes on for quite a while. And then it kind of keeps cutting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between Shelley doing things, and then you have Jack in the big going around, walking around, going into the room and just typing on his typewriter, and you get a great shot. There's a great shot later on that shows the typewriter, um, the kind of the camera pans down, and it's really effective technique. And Jack's just walking through, and he sits down and starts typing on typewriter. What are you writing, hands? Like, I'm just writing this, and Shelley Duvall or Wendy's doing different things. Yeah, Wendy, that's great and all that. So I love that. But as Danny's like cycling past, there's a great moment where the music's building up and he stops and just looks over, and it says room 237, and then he's seeing the visions again, and he's kind of like, "Oh fuck, the gore and everything." You're kind of like, "What's gonna happen here? What is he gonna do? Is his curiosity gonna get the best of him?" Of course, he's an idiot, so he gets up and goes, and he's about to open the door, and it kind of cuts to Jack and Wendy doing different things around the hotel. I like how they treat it as their home, because it is essentially she has to look after it till May. Well, Jack has to look after it till May, so I enjoyed that um part of the film, that realistic aspect and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was very well done. Um, yeah. So I like when you know, fucking Jack is just kind of uh doing things around the house and shit. Um, Sorry, I was distracted by something there. Um, but like Danny's cycling around at one point and all this, and we get this great shot where he's cycling in the hall, and the carpet is fucking gorgeous. Like that's when he starts cycling, he sees the room and then starts to get the try. He starts to you know go on the carpet, and I even like the way he goes through the all around the hotel, and like you have the lobby and everything else, and the big room that Jack's in. So I love that. But I love as he's like, as he's cycling and stuff, he's going down the hall, makes a turn, makes a turn, makes a turn, and then boom, and then sees the two girls standing in the hallway, which in my opinion is the scariest fucking scene in this film. These two little girls were creepy as fuck. They're just standing there, and they're like, "Hello, Danny," and then and Danny's like that, and then you just get a shot, flash image of them dead on the ground after being chopped up, blood everywhere, and they're like, "Come and play with us," and she's like that. He's like, and then it cuts to him like that, and he goes like that, and it's like, "Come play with us, Danny," and it's like, forever, and it's like, back to him dead, and Eva, and Eva, and he's like, remember what? He's like, and then he goes, Tony, I'm scared, and he's like, remember what Mr. Howland said? It's just pictures in a book, Danny. It ain't real. And he just looks up, and you're like, oh fuck, get out of here! And that scene is so disturbing, so effective, fucking terrifying, and the practical effects and the imagery is great, and it will stick with you forever. Because Stanley Kubrick's great at doing that. Having imagery that will fuck you up. Done it in The Clockwork Orange. He does it in this, and all that. But Danny, as I said, throughout the film, you feel bad for the kid because he does go through a lot of moments like where he's like, and all that screaming, and like he wakes up, and all that stuff. And there's a moment where he wakes up like, and she's like, Daddy, Daddy, what's wrong? Are you just having a bad dream? Just a bad dream, Danny. It's like, and no, and then he's not responding, like, Danny, and he just kind of starts going like this, red rum, red rum, red rum. And then she's like, Danny, Danny, Daddy, it's okay, you're just having a bad dream. Just a bad dream, that's all. And I love the use of foreshadowing of the blood and just everything in it. I like when she goes down into like the engine place. Okay, let's do it, and then turns the thing on. Oh, that's great. Okay, I'll do that. So she turns like energy on and all that. But at the beginning, they do try and have fun. Um, well, there's a like each day throughout the film it cuts to like, oh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it pops up, and they're all doing different things, and they're in the kitchen, and then they're just in the different part of the lobby, just different parts of the hotel. Um, you know what I mean? And I love that. I love that aspect of it. Like, oh, she's in the kitchen, or she's there watching something, and Danny's like, they have the TV there, and Danny's just there like, like, Mom, can I go and go up and get my truck? It's like, okay, but just try not to wake up your father. He's like, but like, I don't know. It's like, no, Mom, please let me get it. Danny, please. He's only just got to bed a couple hours ago. It's like, okay, I'll be quiet. It's like, well, don't wake him up. Okay, okay, Mom. Okay. And then he goes all the way up, and you know, fucking just he's walking all the way up, and he goes up the stairs, opens the door. Dad, he's like, what are you doing? It's like, can I just come and get my? And there's a great shot of the room, and Jack there. It's like, can I just go get my truck? Mom said it was okay. It's like, yeah, come here for a second, and all that. And there's just this really great, um, really great fucking scene where he just goes over and sits down on his lap's like, I love you, sport. You know that, Chief. I love you, Doc, and all that. He's like, yeah. Do you like this hotel? It's like, yes, I guess so. I love it. I think it's amazing. It's like, yeah. It's like, I guess. I just want to stay here forever. It's like, do you want to know how much I like it? It's like, yeah. He's like, I just want to stay here forever and ever and ever. And it's so fucking creepy. You're like, what the fuck? And he's like, Dad, do you like it here? Love it, son. It's like, are you happy here? Yeah. I think it's amazing and all that. And it's such a creepy scene. It's like, Dad, are you gonna hurt me and all that? And he's like, no. What makes you think that? I don't know. It's like, I just had bad dreams of fish. It's like, so Tony says, like, who says that? Your mom didn't say that, did she? No. I never hurt you. I love you. Okay? It's like, okay, Dad. Walks down. And it's like, Tony's letting him know that, he's going to hurt him. It's like, thank you, Mrs. Torrance. And you get nice scenes like, Danny, come on, have your breakfast. Okay, Mom, like in the mornings. And I like the human side and all that. Um, And as I said, the moments where they're in the hotel at the beginning, um, but I also love, um, you know, the opening credits of the movie. You get like these amazing opening shots with the amazing theme music, the down, 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 and like the shots are of the camera moving through the water, through the cliff, and like it's like Stephen, like Jack Nicholson, blah blah blah, blah Stephen King. It's like The Shining, and the way the title pops up, and then you get the car going through the road and over the hills and just through brilliant shots that you're like, holy fuck, how did they do that? Of the car driving and just all these different shots of the mountains and all of that. And it just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And it drives up to the hotel and it's great. And you're instantly thrown in. And, Jack walks in. He's like, I have a, hi. It's like, he's like, walks through and like, get this great shot. And he goes up to the secretary. Hi, I have a meeting with such and such. It's like, oh, yeah, right this way, sir. I'm Jack Torrance. I'm caretaker. It's like, right this way, sir. It's like, all right, oh, Mr. Torrance, great. It's nice to meet you. It's like, oh, yeah. It's an honor to meet you too, sir. And all that. And just, Jack Nicholson's really good at playing normal and then going crazy. Like, there's always that hint of him going like that. And I love that descent into madness that he has. So he's like, come on, let's go over here. He's like, come on in, Mr. Torrance, you want coffee? He's like, oh, yes. He sits down. Yes, please. And I love, like, the stylistic choices of the rooms being red and, when they're walking in the hall in orange and all that. And the room that has the meeting thing and all that. It's like, here's the thing, the intercom you can use and all that kind of stuff. Um, you know, uh, and essentially, there's even that great moment later on where Shelley uses the intercom, like when she's panicking, like, "Hi, help me," and all that kind of stuff. Um, to Jack, like, you can't do it or whatever. And it's like, so how long are you looking to do this? Oh, I'm looking to do this for a while. Yeah, well, it's in the summer. This part thing takes place in the summer, then it's winter. And they're like, oh, it's like I'm hoping to do the job here for a while and all that. It's like, oh yeah, well of course in the winter it's fine, it's great, we got all the best places all the time ever and all that. It's like, okay, yeah, and the way that it's edited really smoothly, they're cutting back and forth, and the dialogue is great. Now I watched the extended version. I seen both cuts, the theatrical and the extended, but there's more dialogue in this scene in the extended than the theatrical cut, which I actually personally prefer the extended cut. Although I know that Stanley Kubrick prefers the theatrical cut. But I love both versions. Still a great movie, but I do prefer the extended cut. So it's like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, oh yeah, and all that. And then they're just talking. It's like, yeah, it's like everything is great. So that's great, great. Will you do it? It's like, oh yeah. Now there is one thing we have to let you know. It's like, yeah, sure. The thing about this hotel is in the winter, people deal with a lot of isolation. It's like, oh, of course, and it's like, yeah, it's like, and it can tend to drive people crazy. It's like, well, that's not going to happen to me. Well, there was an incident that happened here about 10 years ago. Did you ever hear what happened in 1970? He's like, no, I don't believe I do. And he's like, well, there was a guy, he came in with his his wife and his two daughters. And eventually, it drove him insane, the long winters, the isolation. And he cut them all up with an axe, killed them. It's like, well, don't worry, that's not going to happen to me. Because before I was like, oh, I like the peace and quiet. I'm a writer. It's great. It's like, yeah, well, that's not going to happen to me. You'll take the job. It's like, yeah, I will. Okay, that's great. So I love that. And I love when it's like, so you're a school teacher. It's like, yeah, I'm a former school teacher. I believe that scene is in the extended cut. It's like, so I do love that whole part of the film as well. I taught this class. I'm like, Jesus, imagine having Jack Torrance as your teacher. Um, and just even the way the music goes, and that's brilliantly done as well. Um, And yeah, trying to see what else I want to talk about. So uh, but yeah, I love that. And then like as I said, there's all those great scenes where um the scenes back to later on in the film where Wendy and Jack are like Jack is just there typing, he's ripping and all that stuff, and then like he's just there typing, and then it's like late at night and it's in the big room, and he walks in, and no, Wendy walks in. What are you writing, hon? And he's like, I'm writing a book. It's like, well, yeah. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, what are you doing? It's like, can I read it someday? It's like, yeah, Wendy. God damn it. You know, when I'm writing, I want peace and quiet. I don't want you coming in here and fucking distracting me on all this. Like, because it always distracts me from what I'm fucking writing. And I have to start over every time you do it. You break my concentration. Rips it up. And he's an asshole. Like, to her. He's like, I'm sorry. It's like, oh, you're sorry. You're always fucking sorry. I don't want you and Danny here. So when you hear me typing, I don't want you in here. When I'm out of here. If I'm in here, don't fucking come in. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, fine. Maybe I'll read it someday. Maybe I will. She goes off, walks away, and all that, and you're kind of like, oh shit. But I even like the stylistic choices of what the characters are wearing. Like that's what I like about um Stanley Kubrick. So like, I like how Jack's wearing a suit and all these other kind of things, and then throughout the film, and then he gets the iconic thing. And I like the way Shelley Duvall wears these kind of like orange tights, and it matches the colors of the film. And I like the stylistic choices and what Danny wears and all that. Um, and yeah, I like that. I love that. And when I'm watching TV and the small TVs, and yeah, but even like little moments that I love, like there's things you don't notice, like there's that great shot where Danny's playing with his trucks on the floor, like on the carpet, and then the ball rolls to him, and he's like, and it rolls back, and it goes into the room 237, and he's walks over, and just kind of cuts, and they're like, oh shit, did he go in? And you're kind of like, what the fuck? Um, and from that scene onwards, he just starts acting really fucking weird and just odd and just like, oh shit, that little motherfucker's after going in, isn't he? Fucking Egypt. You fucking Egypt, Danny. Danny boy, really? So you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, he's after going in. Um, so yeah, I enjoyed that. Uh, and there's also the great moments where he's like, "Come on, then," like where the hotel's normal at first, and then you see the snow coming down and the blizzard, and it has that, and you see the fire lighting in the hotel, and it has that nice kind of like, you get shots of the hotel rooms and shots of the lobby and shots of everything, and it has that nice wintry feeling, like the nice warm feeling you get. Like it's such an atmospheric movie. The atmosphere of winter, the hotel, it's a great movie to watch in the winter time, leading up to Halloween, even leading up to fucking Christmas. Like it's such a great atmospheric film. That's what I love about this movie. It's one of my favorite aspects of this film, and I think it's brilliantly done. But I love when they're outside playing, like, come on, like they're throwing like come on, let's go, and they're throwing like you know snowballs at each other and all. They're like, yeah, let's go, Danny, come on, and all that. And then um they're running away, and then there's just a shot of Jack looking at the window, and like I love the use of show don't tell. Like he's just looking and the colors on his face, and it's like he is starting to lose his fucking mind. I love that. You're like, oh shit, this guy is starting to fucking lose his mind, and it is entertaining as shit seeing his mental state go to fuck. I'm joking, that's kind of fucked up, but that is like a really like, oh fuck kind of moment, and you're kind of like, is he gonna be okay? Um, So I enjoyed that part of the film. Um, uh, and 1 second, Instagram. Okay, but then I also like the part where like, come on, Danny, let's go outside, and then where Jack is in there typing, and he kind of goes over, walks over, he's sitting down, he walks over, and he looks at a model of the maze, and I like when they're like, come on, Danny, let's go, and they're walking around the maze, like, oh my god, we can't get out of here, Mom. It's like, yeah, it's great, and they're just kind of walking around, and it's like this claustrophobic, like, we got out, and they're kind of walking around, and there's a great shot of him looking at the maze, and the shot of Danny and Wendy walking in the maze, you know what I mean? And it's that nice stylistic choice, and they get out, and it's all this brilliant foreshadowing as to what's to come later, you know. But the style and substance is great in this movie, and like Kubrick just has such a unique and brilliant style in this movie, and I love it. I love that about this film. I think it's excellent. It's brilliant, like, and it's just like holy fucking shit. Um, so there's that, and then like, of course, Jack Torrance starts to lose it. You know, he starts to absolutely fucking lose it. You know, he's walking there like getting annoyed at Wendy in different scenes. Um, you know, just crazy. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna pause this because I'm getting tired of talking. Uh, I might actually cut this off. I will do a part two to this review. I know I could do a review in one part, but honestly, I'm talking too long, so that's my first part of the review. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later. Bye.